Talk shoes.
Recorded live.
Hello, this is Kat Miller. It is Tuesday, May 24th, 2011, and I am here talking with our shaman, Dane Kirby. Welcome to you, Dane.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Having fun as always, aren't we?
Yes. Just so that people know a little bit more about you, you have a website that's up that's called motivationmatrix.com. Is that correct?
That's it, yes.
Okay, and just a brief telling a little bit just about you, just in case there are people that have never listened to any of our talkcasts together before, and they want to know, what is the shaman? Who is this Dane Kirby? And what is he doing talking with Kat?
Well, you'll notice when you go to the website that I'm not a web guru, but it's getting better. And I am the person that basically I work between. I get between a person and say their fear and show them that it's just fear and give them power and control back over again, which they always had. Just they needed somebody to step in and prove it to them. I'm the person that people come to when their spirit's hurting. They're, sick at heart and they've lost their faith, whatever that faith may be. I'm the guy that people come to saying, hey, I want my faith back, or I've lost something that was important to me. I don't know where I put it. And that's me in a nutshell. The world is my village. So I tend to take care of anybody from everywhere.
Awesome. So once again, Dane's website is motivationmatrix.com. And I am Kat Miller, and I am the founder of the Blue Iris Learning Center, which has all kinds of learning stuff on there for healing. And we work with switch words, with the Emotional Freedom Technique, with the Emotional Freedom Vial, with healing energy vibrations, just tons and tons of stuff there. Fun little place. And the Blue Iris Learning Center is at blueiris.org. That's BLUEIRIS.org. Fun place to be. We have a forum for people to discuss things with, and just tons of information there, too. So, all that out of the way, what did you want to talk about today, Dane?
Well, I am going to add to what you said about Blue Iris. As far as the way you list the shamanic animals and the animal energy and the totemics, I enjoy that immensely, the way it's listed, because you're showing them that anybody can access that animal's energy and what it relates to, even if it's just for a short time. They don't have to live in it continuously like I do. Mm-hmm. And I really admire that, because most people, you don't see it out there like that. Most people don't realize that you can access the various energies for a time to do things that should be done for you, or that you want to, to help you accomplish things. So I, Shaman Dane, am endorsing. No, really, I do thoroughly enjoy that. You're really the only site I've ever seen do anything like that. Most people just talk about what the totemics do, but they don't show you a way to get to them, even if it's just for a short while, to cause change in your life or in your situation, things like that. So I really do like it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about fear, where we've been the last while, probably the last just about 3 years. We've been dealing with a lot of job loss, and the economy on a downturn, and people are still living in fear of losing their jobs, living in fear of not finding a job. There's really lots of stuff going on out there with that. Have any thoughts?
Well, I've been running across, especially this week, Monday it started for sure, a lot of folks in a situation in a particular company that I have dealings with, that they're basically being told, hey, look, guess what? We're not sure what's happening. And that's basically all they're being told. People are like, what do you mean?
don't know what's happening. What do you mean? You don't know what's happening?
Yeah. It's like, well, what do you mean it's not looking good, kind of thing. And when that happens to people, they lock up, they withdraw, pull their head in, stick it in the sand, either one, and you can't help them because if anything at all, they can't allow anything to change, because if they allow anything to change, well, then the bad thing might get them. And that's where all of a sudden people have locked themselves totally out of the way of the good that's waiting for them. And that's where I enjoy teaching people, like the one we did for going out like in your backyard and just letting all the beautiful sunlight come through your head, flow down your feet, and just letting all your junk go into the earth. Let Mother take care of it for you. And it's amazing how that clears you out very quickly so that you can be open and start taking action. And out of that situation, I noticed one person and one person only stepped up and said, oh man, well, I don't want to get hung out to dry like this, so I'm going to do something about it. But it was one person out of a lot of people. The percentage was pretty dismal. So that's how it came to my attention, because they basically had approached me saying, look, what do I do about this? I want to do something. I know I have the ability to do something about it. So what should I do? And so, of course, being the good shaman that I am, I said, well, what do you think you should do? and then I actually was, kind enough to change it and said, look, don't think about it. You're already headed in the right direction. If you put your hand on your heart, what's it telling you? And they sat there, breathed in deeply for a few minutes and said, oh, it's telling me that everything's working out and that I've got plenty enough time to go out there and reach for what I want, and it's already waiting for me. All I have to do is be open to reach out and receive it. I said, well, there you go. So you still scared? They said, well, I'm only scared of being scared now. They said they're not sure how they're going to walk into their day job tomorrow and deal with all the people around them that, of course, are freaking out. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, unfortunately, that's up to them. Mm-hmm. There's nothing in the world that says you have to take any of that energy on, and truthfully, you shouldn't. It's not your energy to take on. If you want to look at it from a karma point of view, it's not your karma to take on. Yours is to maintain a steady course for you right now. And now, it can be done that you can help others, sure, but you have to pay attention that you're not taking on their junk if you're helping them. Mm-hmm. And you're in a position now where you know how to ask your heart. Just put a hand on it and say, nice deep breath, okay, what do I do right now? And it's that simple. And it's working for the person. They're happy with it. They're going forward, to the point that they even opened up and realized that, it's time to move, I believe. I don't want to stay here anymore because I'm seeing too much of this around me, and I know that in other places there are the perfect places for me to be. Well, go for it then. I said, just make sure that you take care of yourself along every step of the way. I said, don't do what some people do and react from fear, and then they make a bad decision and a bad jump, and then they kind of hang themselves with their own rope. But as long as you stay away from that, as long as you make solid decisions, and I said, in all honesty, write them down. And when you look at them and write them down, and then read them out loud to yourself in a mirror, take a look at yourself as you're reading them out loud, see what's going on with you. Put that, the note you write it down on over your heart. Talk with yourself about it. I said, and that works. So they're going to keep me posted on how that goes.
Oh, that very well.
But it was a sad state of affairs to see. Well, interesting. Let's talk about that. Even me saying that's interesting. That's a conditioning thing, and I even know better. But I'll say it again. It's a sad state of affairs that I will say, out of all the people that got tapped with this issue, this one person stepping up was, I would say, 2% of the mass. One person, 2% stepped up. But if you start looking throughout the human culture and race, really it is that old thing, the higher, the fewer. And it really is. A lot of times it does only equate to about 2% of the people step up when the going gets rough, kind of thing. So statistically, it was the right number, one person stepping up to do this. It's just me personally, I would love to see far more people step up, but it's where they're at. And that's the one thing I have to learn. And as Carrie pointed out to me a long time ago, as a shaman, I have to be able to let go. That your day-to-day person doing day-to-day things doesn't let go. But I don't have a choice in that. I have to let go so that I can keep myself clear so that I can help others get clear. And
you have a choice.
Yeah.
But choose to help others to get clear. And in choosing to help others get clear, you choose to let go. So, yeah,
yes.
you got a choice.
Yeah.
Just clarifying.
And, but, it's interesting how folks are, and I've been there, okay? I didn't just go pop out and go, yes, I am wonderful. I had to learn this myself to get to this point where fear will eat your lunch for you and just kick you in the head any chance it gets. And it's amazing how once you decide that fear is only fear, and you get on the other side of it, you look at it and go, that's it? That's what was holding me down, back, keeping my head underwater? And fear really is just fear. I personally believe the only way fear is going to hurt you is because of the love and joy it keeps you from. And
fear
that,
fear puts you in a space where you can't make moves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you hold on to that fear and let it, then the fear will just keep you in a space that you don't want to be in. My thoughts on these people who are worried about losing their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of things that I have. Look at where you are in your job. How have you been looking at your job? What have you been saying about your job? Have you been telling the universe, I am not happy in this job? Have you been telling the universe, I want to leave this job? Have you been telling the universe, I'm ready to move on? Have you been telling these things? The universe is listening always.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you have been making these statements, if you have been looking at your job and saying, I really don't want to work here anymore, why would you be surprised to get notification that you're not going to be working there anymore? Is that not the universe 100% aligning with what it is you've been saying?
That's it.
Now, that fear may be there just because you have made this statement that you want to move on, that you have another place to go, another thing to do. You are afraid of taking that step forward. One door must close for another door to open.
Mm-hmm.
You have space in your life that is filled with plenty, be it positive, be it negative.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not open up a space by letting go of something, and I'm getting a little bit of feedback from you right now, Dane.
Shouldn't be. Nothing's changed on my end. I'm same place I was.
Okay.
Maybe it's just my awesomeness.
There we go. But if you don't open up by letting go of some of that negative space, that negative stuff, that new space can't open. Opportunity. How many times have people had a job that they were working and they were talking about wanting to do something else, and then actually had an opportunity come, and it scared the bejesus out of them because it would cause them to make significant changes in their life, and they turned it down and continued with what they knew. We're creatures of habit. So get out of that habit.
Well, what if your comfort hurts just right? Not that it's good for you. It's just what you're used to. So isn't it much simpler just to stay there with that little bit of pain instead of move on to, oh, wow, I can breathe deeply now and, ooh, smell the flowers and see that sunshine? Even though that's what you say you want, when the opportunity presents itself, it's a tough call for a lot of people to just say, yes, I'm worthy.
Well, I am remembering when my daughter had multi-chemical sensitivity, she also had electrical sensitivity. I guess that's what it was, electromagnetic sensitivity. Anyway, we had taken her up to a doctor's office up in Scottsdale, and this was the first time that we went to see him, and he was an environmental medicine doctor who was hoping to eventually clear her allergies, which, by the way, he didn't make a whole lot of progress on, but another naturopath did in a matter of minutes clear all of her allergies somewhat later. But when we were up there that first day, he took her to his electromagnetically shielded room. This is a room that has copper in the walls, shielding all electromagnetic waves. And she said when he shut the door, she felt absolute fear because things changed so substantially. She said as she sat there for a minute, she realized what happened is there was a hum in her ear that was not there anymore, and her low-grade headache that was just always there was gone. But it took a minute or two of being in that electromagnetically shielded room for her to realize what the huge change was that she felt and adjust to it and go, oh, okay, this is all right. This wasn't so bad after all. But that's the way that we are so very, very often. And we don't pay close attention to everything that's going on. I was also, a few minutes ago, reminded of something that happened about a year ago. And this was after I went through the Landmark Forum. And I did not really realize it until a few days later. But I've always had, and you're just going to laugh at this, Dane, after what we've gone through today, I've always had issues with communication. I was, the Tuesday after the forum, I called to talk to my mother, and I was telling her about something that had happened when I was just a toddler. And just at the point when I was about to really tell her the whole thing, my cell phone died. She panicked. She called the house phone. And when I answered, both of the house phones at the time were cordless. I picked up the one, and as I answered it, I heard it beeping saying that it was about to die. And I told her, this phone's about to die, I need to find the other one. When I found the other one, it was already dead, and I lost her again. It is just past 7 o'clock in the morning. We go over to my daughter's house to tend her kids just after 7 in the morning. My mom is in a total panic. She needs to talk to me, right? So she calls my husband's cell phone. He answers it, and he says, I'm leaving to go to Camille's, and I will not leave my phone here. But she'll call you as soon as her phone has enough charge that she can call. Well, I didn't realize at that time that I really had a communication problem. But a couple of days later, I was talking with a friend, and just as I was hitting the point of talking with him about something very substantial, a very important point, my phone died. And it was the second friend, another day or two later, that I was talking with. If I remember right, I was chatting on the internet with him or something. And when we hit a point where it's like, okay, we got to go to voice, he called me. And when he called me, we started into the conversation. And that was the very first time that I actually caught the beeps before it was the final beep telling me that my phone is dying and it's gone. And I got the phone plugged in before the phone totally died. And I started to look back, and I realized that, I've always had communication problems. I've never heard the phone about to die until that one time. It's just like I hear that last beep, and it's like, oh, it's shutting down. I missed the first few beeps again. I have not had a lot of issues with the phone dying on me since then, because I am aware that I used to have a communications problem. And now I pay attention. I looked at my phone. I saw, okay, the bars are starting to get a little bit low on my cell phone. So I am going to be ready to plug in my cell phone should it come close to dying, so that I don't have an interruption in this podcast. We're not paying attention to the things that are going on around us. We have set ourselves up. And oftentimes, as youngsters, I know who it was that said I had a communication problem. It was me. I was 3 years old. I thought I knew how to get across my point. I had language. I knew how to tell people what it is I needed to tell them. Or so I thought. I tried to tell my mother something that was desperately important to me, that she hear it, that she know it. And guess what? I didn't have the language skills to tell her. It was vitally important to this 3-year-old that I communicate something to my mother. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't communicate. So when it was really, really important, communication failed. And that 3-year-old said, when it's really, really important, communication fails. I look back, and I don't know I don't know how my dad survived me when I had babies. Because when I had my third child, she had spina bifida, and she only lived for about 3 weeks. But after I delivered her, while I was in recovery, I called to talk to Dad, and I told him that he asked me, what is the baby? I said, I think it's a girl, and then I couldn't say another word. And he sat there on the other end of the phone saying, what do you mean you think it's a girl? What's wrong? And I couldn't say anything. Joe took the phone from me, and he explained to him what was going on. Another incident, my son, he was a premature baby, and he had a lot of problems with heart and lung in his early days. And when he was 3 years old, one Saturday morning, I went to wake him up. He was an hour or so past the time that he normally woke up, and he was a little bit dusky, which means he was not moving enough oxygen, and he'd started into heart failure. And when I tried to wake him up, he would wake up, but his eyes would kind of roll back in his head, and he'd slump back down. He was registering that I was there, but he wasn't really there. He was slipping into a coma. So we got him up to the hospital, got him into the emergency room, got him being taken care of. And when he was stabilized, I called my parents, my dad, and I told him, Brent didn't wake up this morning. And then I couldn't say anything else. So for like a minute and a half, my dad is going, and hello, talk to me, and I couldn't talk. And so last year, when I had this communication problem with Mom and then another friend and a friend and all, I realized, you know what? Somewhere along the line, you decided you had a communication problem. And you've been carrying that through your life. I don't have communication problems anymore because I was made aware of who told me I had communication problems, and I decided that I could let it go, and I don't need to have communication problems anymore. I take care of my communication. People understand me now. People know where I'm coming from. They know what I'm telling them because I decided that I can communicate anything to anybody, and they will understand. So how that hooks into what we're talking about, I don't know, but it sure came up pretty strong for me here.
Well, see, now is when I tell you that, well, of course, I'm your shaman, see, so I listen to you so that you can be. How's that? Is that good? I'll send you a bill later. Also, but look at it this way, and it's something we said early on in these talks. You had to fight tooth and nail to get me to do this. I mean, really. This just wasn't the way I did things. And even now, what is this, our 12th one?
Something like that.
Yeah. Tonight, we had, 15 minutes of, now here's my computer doing something it has never, ever done.
Mm-hmm.
Been on Skype all day. Perfectly good headset, fine, no problem. I've got a nice, fancy microphone that I love to use. Plug that in tonight, it was giving you massive feedback. And it's like, okay, well, I'll switch to the headset. And we're sitting here right now. I'm talking through the microphone on the headset. I have one ear of the headset off of my ear because you're coming through my speakers on the computer. And the way my computer is set up, that should be impossible. So
right.
It's like, what the heck is going on here? Because that's not right. So here we are, we're dealing with actually what I would say are, if they're not my communication issues, then there is definitely something in that's making us work for it. You even said earlier that there's something going on about it doesn't want us to get this good stuff out there. Okay, fair enough. I've encountered that before in life. So I just find it fascinating that we have had I almost said a devil of a time, sometimes getting these things going, but we rig it up if we have to and keep going. And that's what I would tell people about fear. It's just fear. So what? If it's kicking your butt going one direction, well, maybe you need to put, on your red striped Converse high tops and go a different direction. Don't let it stop you. And if it appears that a door has been closed to you that you thought would be wide open, there's other doors. There's a window. Look up. How do you know that there's not even a roof there? Maybe you could just climb right up and over. And that's what I will tell people about this, that you and I are going to keep at this until it works perfectly smoothly. It only seems to happen to us. I never have this with anybody else. I don't think you do either. So for whatever reason, we're working something good out here, and I'm all for it. And it's something that, but the cool thing is we're a living example of stuff happens. Deal with it, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that does drive me a little crazy is people tend to give me the guru treatment. Oh, wow, Dane, that means you're a shaman. You do this, you do that. It must be so cool. You don't have any problems. You don't have any issues. I bet you never get angry. And I look at them and I'm like, okay, so you're crazy and we need to work from that point, don't we? Because I'm human. I just happen to have decided to access different things that most folks don't. Okay, but I'm still a people.
There is absolutely no getting out of humanity. You are human.
That's it.
And there is the...
If I wasn't, how could I relate to you? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. You've heard of original sin?
Mm-hmm.
What about original fear? You know what the original fear is?
Hey, go for it. You got me interested on that one. See, you always do this. You come up with something really interesting that I haven't heard said in that way before.
Me neither. That was a thing that just came up just now. Original fear. Original fear occurred when absolutely everything about your life changed.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely everything in your life changed the day you were born.
Oh,
You
yeah.
went from warm, dark, comfortable waterbed, feeding on tap,
Stereo.
muted noises,
Mm-hmm.
to loud, bright, uncomfortable, wide open spaces, and every time you got afraid, somebody screamed loud. Of course, you didn't know it was you.
Yeah.
Your entire world changed that day, and somebody slapped you on the butt. It's like you had never felt anything like that. You had never experienced anything like that. Your entire comfort zone was gone, never to be returned. Who wouldn't be afraid when absolutely everything that you had ever known in the last 9 months, in the whole 9 months that you were inside your mother in that womb, everything you were experiencing, comfort, was warmth, was mom's love, was tightness, being held, hugged. You had a water bed. All of that completely gone in a matter of minutes. And somebody had the nerve to push you out of your nice, tight, comfortable quarters through a tunnel that was way too small into these bright lights and this loud noise, no moisture. You were in a very moist sauna. You had 24 hours a day of warm moisture, and all of a sudden you're in a dry environment, and it is bright, bright lights out there. And the only comforting thing you have is the sound of mom's heart beat, and you don't have that all the time. It was 24 hours a day. It was 7 days a week. You heard that noise, that heartbeat, mom's heartbeat. And now you only hear it, and it sounds different, but you only hear it when you're lying on mom. And it's farther away.
Yeah.
And you have to strain to hear it. This is why babies are so much comforted by lying on mom. Is because it's a little bit of a connection to the world they had before. Yeah, original fear.
And unfortunately, it continues with, as you get older, get rid of that imaginary friend. It's time to grow up. Things like that, like, don't you want to be an adult? Don't be so soft. Don't be so nice. You got to toughen up. And truthfully, I would say the majority of my clients, they come to me because they did do everything they were told to do. They got rid of their imaginary friends. They toughened up. They quit being a baby. They quit this. They quit that. They quit everything, unfortunately. And then they got old, bitter. And when I say old, I mean literally 20s even. 20s, 30s, that kind of thing. They got bitter. They got tight. They got stiff. They got dried out. And they just want to reconnect to being that child again. And they're finding out that, wow, their parents meant well, but what they taught them cost them a lot. And maybe there's another way of doing it. Maybe you can have both worlds. You can grow up, but you can still retain that child within. And that's literally what I spend a lot of my time teaching people. And it's worth it. It's so worth it seeing somebody come into your office all hunched and bent, and you must have the same kind of thing happen with you. And then 15, 20, hour tops later, walk out that door and they're like, wow, and you can see in their eyes, they're like a kid again. They've got that back. They understand, I didn't totally give it up and get rid of it. Hey, it was here. I just had tossed a blanket over it, or I'd put it in the attic, that kind of thing. And we're meant to live that way, if you want to say in dual worlds. We're still meant to grow up and have that child's wonder and heart, but we also are able to use the adult sensibilities in, deductive reasoning, things like that. It's perfectly fine to do that. And I'm noticing that more and more people are learning that. And then when you get into the purple kids, they just seem to have less of a problem with that, period. They don't tend to give it up at all. Do you know what I mean? They tend to be like, well, I can grow up and still be this and be an adult. I say purple kids, the indigos.
Indigos, digital.
Yeah.
Digital started to arrive about 70 to 80 years ago, and they were very tiny, very few. The number was very tiny up front, and as the decades went by, more and more were coming to us. And from my perspective, what I have seen in 2006, January 2006, we hit the point where the digitals, the indigos, were virtually 100% of the births. And
it's a whole new world order coming now.
Yeah, and we have also been experiencing since about 2003 that adults have been actually converting from analog or non-indigo to indigo. I've watched it. I've seen it. It's happened.
Yep.
And I believe that the part of the reason is because the world is changing so rapidly that the human body needed to have a way to compensate for all of the changes. Generally, evolution happens over generations, like total body modification and natural healing have taught that it takes 11 to 12 generations to adjust to properly utilizing a new food in the diet. Well, in the last 50 years, we have been inundated with genetically modified organisms, or frankenfoods. And the human body has to adapt to that. And I believe that part of why we have so many indigos and why the human body is making these changes is to keep up with what it needs to do. I believe that these indigos, that these digital, are actually able to adjust within the same generation, rather than having to go through several generations to do that. Anyway, that's a whole other talk, and we are getting kind of long.
But it makes sense, It makes sense, and here's another reason that fear seems more prevalent. You can throw out there the whole 2012 thing. Well, folks, do your research. It happens every about 5,200 and some odd years, okay, this whole 2012 thing. The world's not ending, okay? And here's the other thing. 2012 is just the midpoint. It's already been happening for about 50 years on either side of it, and it's going to happen on the other side for about 50. This is normal. It's happened for several times on the Earth as far back as we can measure history with ice cores, that kind of thing. But people are so busy with all the fear being thrown out in the air, and they just let it stick to them. And in the most part, most folks don't know how to not let it stick to them. The majority of people don't, just stand there and breathe in deeply for a couple minutes and feel the sunlight on their face and wiggle their toes in the dirt and go, yes, I'm still connected, and it's good. And it's just that simple. That's all it takes. Literally, you make that into a habit where you sit there, or stand there for a couple, 3 minutes a day and do that, your life changes drastically, and it's for the better. Okay? Is when you do something like that to consciously and intentionally connect yourself to the world, and I'm going to clarify that and say to the earth, that suddenly you find out things change for you quickly, and it's always for the better. Myself, I started doing, it's called long magic is what you would call it, and maybe I'll go into detail about that another time. And normally I would have expected this to have taken about a 3-month time frame to do this. It took a week. So the world is changing, and it's changing quickly. And I was stunned myself, and I've been doing this for decades. But for it to go from something that I would have normally expected to take 3 months to literally create and implement the changes I expected to see in less than a week, that was stunning. I'm still actually right now going, wow. So I'm actually having to adapt myself, and this is stuff that's been taught for millennia. I would say pretty much as long as there's been humans, something like this has been taught. So it's no wonder that people are scared, but it's also so easy to deal with it. And, the easiest thing, like I say, is to go out and do a nice little quick meditation where you go out, stick your feet in the sand or the dirt or even the pavement, wiggle those feet around, reach up to the sky, stretch, breathe deeply, 3 nice times, open and close those eyes, feel that sunlight if it's out there, feel the moonlight, feel the breeze of the air, and just let it all flow into the earth. Let all that warmth or that breeze fill you up. Let that moonbeam fill you up. And just doing something that simple every day, your life is getting better because that's the way it has to be. When you're doing something that positive for yourself and allowing the spirit that fills us all, you're giving it conscious effort to fill even more of you, life only gets better. Now, does it seem worse sometimes for people because it's like, well, what's happening? Why is this in the way? You're just clearing the junk out of the way. Let it clear. And then you're done and good to go. Matter of fact, tonight, after having said that, I just realized I gave myself an answer. I want to go out tonight, let it all go, and I promise you that the next time we're not going to have an issue when we do talk shoe.
Awesome. I have to tell you, Dave, I heard the first song, and I plugged my phone in. So I think this has been an awesome talkcast, as always, with you. And so I just want to thank you for taking the time and going through the extra effort to make it work today. And I want everybody to have a wonderful week. And we'll be back at it again next Tuesday. And we'll see where things go then.
That's it, darling.
All right. Just a second. I'm a little bit away from my computer, and I'm going to go ahead and end this, and then I'll be back with my phone.
Okay. Have a great time, folks. Bye-bye.